All right, here we go, gang. We are back. We are live. It is a new day, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of the Aired Out experience. We're live from Fly on the Wall Productions, and I believe we are jumping in this morning right out of the gate with Roger Hill. Roger, are you there?
I am here. Good morning, sir.
Well, tell us what's happening, man, because, I got meteorologist Thom Lauzon here right next to me, he's saying like, what, two to 3 inches, Tom? Is that what you're saying, bud?
No, 4 to 6.
4 to 6. Roger, set the record straight here, pal.
I'm not too far from that. I'm thinking about 3 to total 6 inches in the valleys, and I think the least amount will be both the Connecticut River Valley, but even more so the western side, west of the Greens, the Champlain Valley, and then all the way down the Route 7 corridor, all the way down into Bennington. Well, you might only see like 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches max. But up in the mountains, that's where the elevations are going to kick in, and you're looking at probably a pretty good solid, I'm going to say 5 to 9, 4 to 9, something like that. I think the best chances would be probably it used to be more southerly, and now it's shifted more central, maybe even central northern Vermont, seeing the most snowfall. So the ski resorts will pick it up pretty good. This is going to be kind of a dry snow at the start. It moves in late, basically later this afternoon, reaching, say, Bennington County, probably maybe as early as noon with the first flakes beginning to fall. But it comes in kind of sporadically, and then it shifts east, and also kind of what we call a moisture tongue. It kind of works east, shoots east, and then that tongue eventually works its way north, eventually into the Barre Montpelier area, and eventually all the way up to the Canadian border and beyond. And that might take most of the afternoon to do that. So the main effects for our neck of the woods here, and I would say Orange County, Windsor County, Addison, and then points north, Washington, into the Kingdom, you're looking at probably after dark. And once it starts to come down after dark, it's going to come down a little hotter and heavier with maybe 1 inch accumulation rates for a time. And I think it'll be dry at the start, a relatively drier type snowfall, but as we get closer to the mixed eventual changeover, which will take place later overnight tonight, that's where it'll start to get wetter, and that may start to coat up trees. Certainly it'll be a nasty travel for driving in that high water content, very slippery snowfall. But you could see some trees potentially start to lean onto power lines and whatnot as they get weighted. And all of that business will be more overnight tonight rather than right at the start. So it's going to take a while to build that up, but it does look like we'll probably be prone to some impacts, some power outages around. Right now, I don't have a real good feel for one particular area versus another, as we're kind of all going to be in that same ballpark. But eventually, everything basically will change over to a mixed precipitation, meaning a little bit of sleet, a little bit of freezing rain, a little bit of freezing drizzle, eventually maybe some rain as temperatures make a rise overnight to about 32 by tomorrow morning. So complex storms. These are always complex storms anytime you have what we call warm air advection storms, starting out with snow, changing over to sleet, freezing rain, and then maybe even just some sprinkles before it goes back to some lighter snow showers. That whole transition business taking place tonight and into the day tomorrow. I think tomorrow afternoon, though, I don't see real problems for travel. I think it'll be bare and wet. The reason, 35 to maybe even warmer than that, and that'll help asphalt roads, certainly. Back roads, kind of a little bit of a different shift, probably sloppy and a little bit nasty to get around in. So regardless, storms are storms, but I think things will improve a little bit more rapidly for the asphalt roads, especially in the lower valleys as temperatures warm during the day tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Roger. We'll keep an eye on Wuthering Heights, and it looks like tomorrow morning's commute's going to be a little different than this morning.
Absolutely, yeah. Tomorrow morning, watch it, and certainly anybody traveling this evening, that's where things are going to get real hectic as you get later into the evening and overnight.
Thanks, pal. We appreciate it.
You got it.
Over and out. Roger Hill. Tom, maybe, I don't know, maybe you should think about meteorology. A whole new
was
career,
reading
Thom.
my phone.
You go after the
But you did a great job.
you go after
okay.
the big money, Thom.
You sold it.
Meteorology.
The
You
big
sold
money,
it.
meteorology. Nobody's going to top Roger Hill.
Roger's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's incredible. We love him to pieces.
And he's just a cool dude. Doesn't get too.
When it comes to weather,
riled
I mean,
up over
nobody
this
knows.
stuff and-
Yeah, nobody knows
He
him.
gets it.
He does.
So yeah, I could be a. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could be the weather guy. I could,
I
as long
mean-
as I have my phone.
Listen, and if
Right,
if it's radio, Thom, you got a face for radio, pal. I mean, my God.
Yes, I do. How are you?
We're very good. We're going to jump into it, but first, I was stalking you a little bit, and I see. Was it Alex? Is it Alex? That's
Alex,
home?
yeah.
He had a birthday, right?
Alex's birthday was yesterday.
How was that?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's quite a young man.
He's a good dude.
He's a great dude. He's so helpful. Now that I've hit the heart attack years, I mean, he'll go to where his work schedule at the it's healthcare, so it's always a little crazy.
Sure.
So sometimes he'll start at 6 in the morning. Sometimes not until afternoon, but then it's always a long shift. And so 5 o'clock in the morning after a snowstorm, he's down. 5 o'clock in the morning before he goes and works a 12-hour shift shoveling my walkway because apparently I've hit the heart attack years.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He's just always
he
helpful.
knows what happens when you try to
with
take the
everything,
dog
it's
out.
always, Dad, what can I do for you? Dad, what can
Yeah.
I help you with? Dad, what can I do for you? And
Yep.
yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, so he had a great year. Moved into his house, career change. He's now up at Central Vermont Medical Center and bought himself a new BMW.
Good for him.
So, yeah.
Jeez, good for him.
Yeah,
My
so
God.
he's doing great, and Miranda is as well. Miranda is not in Denver this week; she's actually in Washington D.C. So, I briefly flirted with the idea of just jumping a plane. There's 4 flights out of Burlington, and I'm like, maybe I'll jump a plane and just go have lunch with her, but. It's busy, and then with this forecast, I was seriously
Right,
thinking about
right.
it, and then with this forecast, I'm like, they're going to start backing up the planes,
Sure.
and I can't. This time of year, I can't get stuck down there for 3 days.
Thom, we just had our Washington County State's Attorney in here.
Rory?
Rory
Yes.
Tebow.
He's awesome.
He was just in on Monday morning, and we sat down here and we chewed the fat, the three of us, and what's coming? How many more days left?
Only 6 now.
Yeah, 6 days left. What are you going to do? What's happening? What's going on? And what's the health of the docket load for Michelle? And where do we stand? And all of that. And we had a great talk. But one of the things that he did say was, ask Thom
About
when he's going to run for mayor. Barry City.
just leave that one alone. You know what? We have enough turmoil without adding to it. So let's not.
What
Rory,
about
I've
Governor?
really enjoyed,
Yeah.
always enjoyed working with him, both as mayor and on the city council and on his campaign. And I mean, he lands on his feet. I mean, he's just too talented.
Yep.
My biggest concern is I hope he remains in public service on some level.
He said he will.
Yeah.
Good.
That he
And I
absolutely
I
will.
got to feel, again, I don't know a whole lot about the transition of the state's attorney's office, but I can't imagine that he won't stick around there for a while.
No,
I mean, wouldn't-
he says
No.
that he will literally shut his phone off for an entire week, but it will be only if they call him and they need something, then he'll volunteer his service. But pretty much it is just
Really?
in 6 days. It's
Yeah,
over.
that's a little astounding to me, and I get it. You have a new state's attorney. I understand all that, and just like when we transitioned Steve McKenzie out and transitioned Nicholas in, you've got to respect the transition, the position, the fact that hey, this is a turnover here. It's a
Yeah,
but
you're right. It could
but
take
then
a little
again,
while.
Nicholas was very quick
Yeah.
to call Steve if there's okay, this project came across my desk. You've been working on it for 14 months. I just saw it for the first time. Can you help me with this?
And he said that he would be available to do that, and he did invite her to come a few weeks ago, and she did just start doing that last week, where she came and has kind of been over, observing everything happening. And he says he's leaving his desk with
Spotless.
everything is spotless, cleaned up, well,
Yeah, it's a military
ready to go.
side of it.
It is.
well,
My bed is made.
Yes.
You can bounce a quarter off my
Yep.
bed.
Exactly.
that she'll be
Yeah.
ready to go, and that he's confident in that, but that he will make himself available
Well,
if she needed him.
There are going to be mistakes. I mean, it's a big office. It's a complex office. And I just hope people, I'm sure people will just give her a chance. Let her acclimate. It's a really big job. I don't know that people understand just
I
how
don't
big
know,
that
but-
job is. Besides trying cases and handling cases, I mean, Rory, I can't tell you how many meetings he attended, whether it was Montpelier and Barry, just Barry, Barrytown. I mean, you're on the go.
Yeah, well,
12, 14 hours a day.
he said
every
that.
day.
He
And
said
on,
that.
and oh, by the way, just because you've gone home, it doesn't mean people stop committing crimes.
So they're going to call you in the night for a search
Oh,
warrant
yes.
or
For
anything.
certain things,
All
they
kinds
will
of
call
things.
you if someone is, violating conditions or, hey, what should we do? And so, you know what? Onward and upward.
Yep.
There was a little bit of chat of whether or not he and I both thought that you'd run for governor. Just saying, Tom. I'm
We have a
just
wonderful
saying.
governor.
We do.
Our job is to support our current governor, keep him in service for another, 10, 16, 25 years.
Did you catch the address? Did you catch the address this past Friday? I think it was
Did I
Friday.
text?
Or catch the address? His
It was a couple of weeks ago now.
was it? I thought it was this past Friday.
Well, there was that was the budget address. Yes. I
Yeah,
believe. Yeah.
that's the one I'm talking
Oh,
about.
And
absolutely.
then the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, I mean, I think the governor has done a great job with the budget. He's looking to leverage those federal funds and making a big state investment. The state has a match, but give or take, on most projects, it's like 4 to 1. Put up $1 of state money, and you get $4 of federal money. So I thought he did a great job with the budget, and all without raising taxes. So now it goes to the legislature, and there'll be a lot of,
And of course, anytime you say the B word, you're not going to make everybody happy.
Of course
My
not.
God.
Well, of course not. I mean, people have different priorities.
Sure.
And that's understandable, and hopefully we can debate those priorities without getting too far into the weeds. I hope.
I think I just saw a bright green Jeep just pass by behind you a second ago. It might have been our
Donut run?
acting mayor last night.
Yeah, the mayor,
Yeah.
the acting mayor, just going on a donut run.
Is that what he's doing?
I don't know.
Could be. He loves.
I'm just starting
Donuts.
rumors.
But there is another one of those that roams around the city.
Is
just
there?
So you know,
Yeah.
there is
Same
this-
color as that
the
one?
same color, but
Wow.
it's older, and I think it was painted that color. But yes,
Oh, so
it's
Mike
it's got
Booten
big,
wannabe.
huge, jacked up wheels. That's right. It's a Mike Booten wannabe. Yeah.
How did he do last night as the acting mayor?
He did great. I mean, Michael did great, and Michael always does. I mean, there were some discussions that were a little tough, and Michael sort of pulls things back to center quickly. So I think he did a great job.
All right. Some homage paid to Mr. McKenzie.
Of course, and Jody Norway,
Talk to me about
appropriately,
that. Yeah.
for the budget, for the dedication of the city report, the annual report that is issued. I think Carol will have it out probably by town meeting day. She always has that. I'm sure it's going to be out by town meeting day. But it was dedicated to Steve McKenzie and his service to the city. Not, a lot of it was mentioned, hey, 12 years as city manager. He served on the school board and as a city councilor for decades before that. And then I'm glad they took a moment to remember Jody and her service to the city. So, yeah, we had that was one of the easier decisions. That was that was about a 5-second conversation.
So where do we see this report? Where do we get our
Where do you get
eyes-
your
eyes and
hands on it?
Yeah.
It will be online. It's printed.
Okay.
We still print books, and I'm glad we do because
So am I.
there are a number of citizens who really
Damn straight.
like to have it.
That's right.
And so I'm proud of the fact that we still print a number of books. And the number's gone down, definitely. You know, we used to print thousands of them. And then, you know, you print a couple thousand. You have, say, 500 left over. So you say, okay, you know what? Next year we're going to print 1,600. And if you have another 300 left over, the following year you might print 1,400.
Sure.
So, but, you know, folks who want to sit in the park and enjoy their city annual report and actually read every page, they can.
They have
they
the
can do
ability
that.
to do that. I hope that always is that case.
Well, it was kind of interesting because I like paper because I never know where I'm going to find myself. I never know if I'm going to have access to Wi-Fi. So I like paper. And it was kind of interesting because, you know what? I had no shortage of things to do when the power went out in December at my home. And I just grabbed my paperwork and sat down at my desk and got my reading done. So
Tom, you and I are cut from the same cloth, brother.
Oh, God, don't even.
Tom, I'm a paper guy too, but
not everything. You know, not everything.
yeah.
You know, some things, depending on the length of a report and the importance. I mean,
Right.
you know, the governor's budget. Yes, I printed that. You know, I printed, it's very, very lengthy.
How many? How
you know,
many-
congressional bills,
Yeah.
I don't, no, those are PDF.
How many,
I'll put those on I have a thumb drive actually on my keychain. So I'll put those like congressional, you know, like tax legislation, stuff like that. I don't waste the paper printing that.
How many file cabinets are at the Lauzon homestead?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And you have lots and lots of paper, but it's not probably not all over the house and
Well,
wherever you drop it.
You know, there
Like
are
some
there are
people.
some legal documents where you can't use a PDF. You know, an original promissory note. You can't.
Sure.
There are some things that the courts will not accept.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
they want to see
deeds, things
original.
like that. So sometimes, you know, there's certain paper. I mean, I don't keep everything.
Yeah, I do.
You know.
I do.
Do you?
Oh,
Right.
everything.
And when it's home, you probably put it away somewhere, right? You put it away. It's
I have a
not
whole
just
room
strewn
at
all
my
over
house.
The place.
Locking the door.
I've been known to have a few piles.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah. You know, I'll
Well, look at Mackenzie's desk. Holy shit!
never got that bad. You know, you'd walk in there, you'd be like, Steve, you in here?
Oh, my God, I know.
It's like if I ever got really upset with Steve,
Yeah.
I'd just light a match and toss it in his
Oh,
office
yeah.
and slam the door. That would have been the end
Wow.
of Steve Mackenzie.
Wow. So what
No,
hap-
but it's how,
yeah.
you know, but in terms of processing and retaining information, you know, we all have our strengths. And
Sure.
Steve was incredible the way he retained and processed information. So it's just how
Sure.
we're all different.
We're
Our
all
brains
different.
all work
Yeah.
differently.
Do me a favor. Tell Raylene that one of these days, and Sherilyn, that it's okay that I'm a paper guy.
It's okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Just can you
As long
be a
as-
neater
It's okay.
paper
No,
guy?
no. As long as he says it's okay,
But
then
if
it's
you
okay.
can't find it, so here's the issue. I'll have stacks. There are like certain times of the year when stuff is going on, like this time of year. This time of year, I'm at my office a lot. So I will tend to, I don't pile, I put in banker's boxes. I'll have a banker's box set up like this, and the paper goes in it. And at the end of a 2 or 3 month period, I'll take the banker's box, flip it, and then go through the stuff and get it filed. Especially this time of year, you know, the hours, I'm at my office a lot. You know, get there early in the morning, and I'm there until well after dark. So I'll tend to accumulate, but then I always do something with it. If you're just accumulating, or if, like, sometimes Karen will say, well, do you know where this is? And it may take me 2 or 3 minutes, but I can literally go somewhere and find it. It might be in a pile. If you can't do that, then you're out of control.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is how the hell are things going over at Salvador and Babbitt right now? I mean,
Great.
It was 2 days ago that we opened up for filing.
Yeah, so we're 23rd IRS and state of Vermont opened up for e-filing, and most folks don't have their information just yet. They don't have their W-2s; those haven't been issued. They usually aren't. They'll be issued in the next. They're supposed to be issued by the 31st. So, stuff will. But then you got brokerage state. You got other 1099s. So it always takes folks a while to.
And don't try to file prematurely because then that's just going to, without all of your forms, because that's just going to delay
You're
things.
going to file an inaccurate tax return.
But you'll know. You'll know.
We have, there's a process. If I'm doing a tax return this year, I always look at last year. So I'll know if you're missing something. For example, if you had interest income from Northfield Savings Bank last year, and I don't see it this year, well, then I'll ask you, what happened to that interest income? You had an account at Northfield in 2021. I don't see a 1099 for 2022. Did you miss something? So there's always, comparison is pretty key.
Are you? Dumb question, but I mean, is Salvador and Babbitt still taking on new customers?
Of course we do.
Mean, you guys can handle it. My God, I mean, it's as if you're not putting enough hours in, pal.
Well, we have, we have some great new hires, and what I always tell them is we have an obligation to the, there are times when we've had to turn a client down because literally they need, in terms of the service, they need too much, and we look at the time frame, and we just know that, first and foremost, we have an obligation to our existing clients,
right?
And if we can't take care of them,
exactly,
then we've got a real problem,
right?
So we're pretty careful about that, but folks they work really hard. I mean, I think we're good at what we do.
And it's April 18th.
Correct.
Is the deadline.
Woo woo. It doesn't make a difference because you know what? Honestly, that may help out a little bit, but I just don't do tax returns on the last day. Mm-hmm. Too much pressure, too much can go wrong. You're better off.
You remember when there was like donuts at the post office and open till midnight and.
Yeah, well, because you'd have to get, there was no e-filing, so you'd have to get everything in the mail. I mean, I remember driving to Burlington.
100 miles an hour?
Huh?
100 miles an hour?
Not 100, but
120.
Right up there. There you go. Because the Barrie post office would close at 5, but the Burlington post office stayed open till midnight.
Yeah.
And I can remember a few times where clients, we had done the return, but the client hadn't come in to pick it up. And I'd be calling them like, and then they'd get there at 6. I'd meet them at 5:30, and they'd say, "Oh, I'll run down to the post office." And I'm like, "The post office is closed. They close at 5."
Right.
Yeah.
I said, "You can drive to Burlington. Burlington's open till midnight." And they're like, "I got to be in Randolph in an hour." I'm like, "All right, put the damn stamp on it. I'll drive to Burlington."
The 6 Ps.
Huh?
The 6 Ps. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Glenn was just asking, do we have to pay taxes on Social Security?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, let me back that up. Tax
Right.
rules are complex. It depends on your level of income. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who receives $24,000, if you're someone who's retired and you receive, say, $24,000 in Social Security and you don't have the benefit of other income, then no. The answer would be no to that question. But if there are some people who are still working, they're earning $50,000 a year and collecting Social Security,
right.
Or they're getting a $50,000, retirement. They have a retirement plan that they're collecting.
But Vermont is one of 10 states that taxes Social
we're
Security?
trying. The governor would like to see that and the tax on military pensions go away. Oh. So at the federal level, you do. But it's a calculation. There's a good worksheet. Actually, the IRS has a good worksheet.
How do you feel about taxing military pensions?
I would like to see Vermont. I mean, the thing is, if you look at a lot of people in the military, there are a lot of young men and women who join the military right out of high school. Mm-hmm. They're 18, 19 years old. and they stay in the military for 25 years. So they're not old and beat and worn out. They're give or take 50 years old, not even. And someone who's, 47, 48, there are a lot of jobs they can do. And, generally, I'll tell you, our veterans, they have this incredible work ethic. So it would be nice, but so they retire and they're collecting a full military pension.
Yeah.
And then they decide, well, I'm 47 years old. I need to do something. Maybe I'll learn to be an electrician. Maybe I'll learn to be an accountant. Maybe I'll get a podcast. They want to stay in Vermont.
Yeah, and the workforce needs you.
You betcha.
Badly.
You betcha. So I would prefer.
And it's
I'd
good
like
for
to
your
see
mental
us,
health.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I'd like to see Vermont eliminate the tax on military pensions.
We have
and
a
Social
note here.
Security. That's just me.
Do you represent for audits as well?
I do.
I've done my own taxes for the last 20 years. I've been audited 7 times.
7 times?
Even though I won every time, it was an absolute pain in the ass.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot. If it's a true audit, you've got different levels. A lot of times the IRS will send you a notice and say, "Hey, our records don't jive with yours, and can you explain this?" That's a desk audit, and those are
different.
As the lady or gentleman inferred, they can be a pain in the rear. So you have to address the discrepancies. That's much different than an actual audit.
Yeah.
Where literally they say, "Hey, grab your books and records, come on down. This is what we're looking. This is what we're looking at." Mm-hmm. And those can be a pain as well. But I've had clients who got audited multiple times on the same issue. For example, travel expenses.
Yeah.
And the IRS will flag the return and say, "Gee, those travel expenses look a little big.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to audit them." And we go down there with their books and records, and we sustain the audit. We sustain the deduction.
Yeah.
And then because it's a matching system, it's just a computerized algorithm type thing. 2 years later, they get audited again on the same issue, travel.
Yeah.
So we go down there, and they sustain the deduction. We're able to show the IRS that they were entitled to that. And then 2 years later, they get audited a third time on travel. Well, at that point, I say,
Lord.
stop.
Yeah.
So this gentleman or lady was commenting, if you're audited multiple times, if it's the same issue, you can and you've sustained the deduction in the first few, you can actually petition them and say, "Look, you've audited
now you're
this.
harassing
You've
me."
audited this 3 times. It's just an algorithm.
Back
and
off.
you've audited it 3 times,
Right.
and there's been no change to my tax return. Can you leave me alone, please?" And
But you have
they will.
something else
They
better
have
to do.
Listen, we all have an obligation to pay our taxes.
Heather says so beautifully, such bullshit that either are taxed. If you paid tax on the work and paid into that retirement, the retirement should not also be taxed.
Yeah.
People that get Social Security pay taxes all their life. I was told, no, you don't need to file. They don't take taxes out of your Social Security.
No, generally no, unless you ask them to.
Okay.
And you can. And again, we have clients who, everyone's situation is different. So in terms of,
some may need
you
to.
can be taxed on
Sure.
up to 85% of the Social Security that you receive.
Okay.
That's the way the federal tax law works. So,
Now, you're going to be sending a bill to these people that have posted these comments here?
I get
This
those
is free tax advice with Lauzon?
Well, yeah, I do that a lot.
I know you
Anyway,
do.
I'll get
I
a lot
know.
of people who will just call or. I've got a lot of clients who say, "Hey, my child turned 18. They started working this year.
Yeah.
Can you do their tax return? I might have them do it on their own." And I always tell people, look,
Do you have any?
first of all, everybody should understand their taxes. I don't have an issue with someone doing their own taxes. If you can do it and you understand it,
Right. Go for it.
What can happen sometimes with kids, though, it's sort of funny because I've learned over the years when the parent calls and I do their tax return and they say, "Hey, so and so got a job this year and they made $6,000-$7,000, but I'm going to have them file their own tax return so they understand how it works." I always caution, when kids file their own tax returns, they don't understand the questions. So they'll claim themselves as a dependent.
Yeah, right.
And then the parents go to claim them as a dependent, and the return won't process.
Right.
So if your kids, so listen, high school kid, college kid doing their own tax return, I'm all over that. I think they should learn and understand it, but make sure they don't claim themselves as their own dependent when they're your dependent.
Right.
Because that is because the only thing you can do is you have to amend the child's return. You have to file the parent's return with them not getting the dependent, unless they want to go on extension. Then you've got to amend the child's return. Then you've got to redo the parent's return. It's a pain.
So just check with you first.
Yeah.
Pass it by
But
your
right
desk.
now, one thing that I would offer is I'm not sure what has happened, but the IRS is an absolute mess. Can't get through to anybody. It is as frustrating. I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this 30 years.
Never really could, but especially
Oh,
now.
no. We always could. There's a problem
Well, you
resolution
always could.
office. Yeah, there's a problem resolution office in Burlington. And,
one's
they were
working?
always open and accessible. But the problem now is that a lot of our agents and officers are not, they're working from home. And they don't want to give you their cell phone number.
Sure.
So,
The nerve.
and they're not in the office that much, and they're working hard with the cases, but the number of cases that are going unresolved, the number of returns that are going unfiled, literally, putting something in the mail is like the kiss of death.
Wow.
It's like, oh, don't put it in the mail.
Oh, I know.
I really don't know how they dig themselves out of this. I mean, because we'll get, it's just crazy. We'll get, we'll file a return for a client. They owe, whatever, $1,000, couple grand. And there's always a coupon. So they put their check in with the coupon. They put the coupon in the mail. They've sent it. They've sent it to the IRS. We e-file the return. 2 months later, they get a notice. You owe this tax plus penalty plus interest. And it's like, okay, obviously no one is processing the checks.
Yeah.
So what we always tell them is we say, look, first of all, because it's in the system, it's almost impossible for us to intervene. I can call that number and say, no, they don't owe you any money. We filed on this date. They put their tax payment in the mail. They don't owe you any money. You just haven't processed. That'll back them off. They can code every account. So they can code it so that, okay, we're going to leave this guy alone for 90 days and see if this resolves.
All of this, even more reason why you should get in touch with Salvador and Bavick.
Well, unless, listen, there are a lot of, I always encourage, you need to understand your taxes. But it has, the complexity, it's gotten, honestly, I think they should do something with the tax code at this point. It's a little out of hand. Now the classification of different types of income, passive income versus active income, it's gotten a little out of hand, and we take it very much for, when you're a CPA and you've been doing it for 30 years and you do your CPE, you just take it for, kind of like anybody doing anything. The guy that fixes our car.
Sure, right.
He goes in there and reprograms something, and look, the car runs again.
Right, great.
So it's like anything, but it's gotten too complicated. The average person should be able to do their own tax return.
Well, I'm going to try my own, and if I have any questions, I do have your cell phone, and I will call you at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, go for it.
And ask those
And I think
questions.
that we should shift gears and go
Well,
back to
of course.
just a minute ago we were talking about kind of like taxes and kickbacks and this, that, and the other, and we have a lot of things that
Kickbacks?
happened. Well,
last night.
not kickbacks, but we were talking about
Yeah.
Hey,
You know what? I do want to talk about one thing. There is a program out there called the ERTC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit. You're seeing a lot of ads on Facebook.
Yep. I've seen them.
Yeah. And, that one, it's got me a little riled. The ERTC is a real thing. It's a tax credit.
Okay.
You have to amend your 941s. You actually have to amend your previously filed tax returns in order to get the credit. It's a real thing. And it's a real thing that can help a lot of businesses. But what we're seeing a lot of these fly-by-night firms who are popping up. And, getting a small business getting a 2-year employee retention tax credit or a tax refund of 50 grand is not unusual. It's not. And we're seeing these kind of fly-by-night firms pop up. You see them on Facebook. I've had clients call and say, I got this thing in the mail. And I'm like, well, we sent you something 6 months ago. When we do your tax return this year in January, February, March, we're going to see if you qualify for the ERTC. What these firms are doing, they're charging a percentage. And 30% is not unusual. So if a small business qualified for a $50,000 employee retention tax credit, that company who prepared those forms would ask for a $15,000 payment. So you got your 50 grand, we want 15,000 or 30% for preparing the forms. Our average invoice for doing that same work is $3,000 to $5,000. And that really, so it upsets me because those small businesses, our small businesses are not out of the woods. Anyone who thinks like, we're fine, COVID is over and back to normal. No. The prices of things have gone up, cost of labor has gone up, availability of labor is challenging. Our small businesses still need the help, and it really upsets me when you get these fly-by-night, and I've seen some of these contracts. It's like, the guy might as well be named Guido. It's like...
He may be.
Well, and I've seen these contracts, and it's like, you're overcharging. See, and I ask people, well, do you guys get a percentage? No, we're not allowed. I'm a CPA. I'm licensed. We have ethics rules, and I can't charge you a percentage of your refund. I can't charge you a percentage of your ERTC. Wow. I can only charge you an hourly rate for the work that I do, just like your auto mechanic does, your carpenter does. No, I charge you based on the work I do. So when I see these, and we've seen some wild ones. I mean, local business here came awfully close to sign. Matter of fact, they signed a contract. We got them out of it because I said, "Hey, I'm gonna send you over to the governor's office." And I was so pissed because it's just wrong because they would have had to pay this firm $30,000 to do the work that we did for $5,000. 25 grand that they don't get. Wow. It's wrong. It's just wrong. It's kind of like in Florida, the ambulance chasers where you go and you see all the billboards like, have you been injured?
Yep, right.
Are you ugly?
So
well,
true.
We can sue your parents. They should have had better looking kids.
Right. So true.
And they get a percentage. So they're ambulance chasers. There are some good firms, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of firms that shouldn't be doing this. They're taking advantage. Like, you're getting 50 grand. I want my cut.
Yeah.
No, get a fair price for the work you did. Don't do that to people.
Don't be an asshat.
And it is okay to ask questions if you don't know or you don't understand.
So now I'm all
questions.
riled up for the rest of the day. And we have, Mackenzie Nash, Steve Thompson, two accountants in my office. They know this. They know this stuff better than I do because we assigned it to them and said, I want you to know everything there is to know about the ERTC, and the rules have changed. Treasury keeps messing with the rules. They're really good at this stuff. If you have it's not an uncomplex calculation, but they're. I'm amazed myself when they hand me these packets and I have to review them and check them. But I'm amazed at how good the work they're doing is.
Thom, we love having you in here on Wednesday mornings. Let's jump in head first to what happened last night at council meeting.
Yeah, there was a coup. I hope they find Jake, but Michael Booten is mayor, apparently.
Holy shit.
No, Mayor Hamrick had a previous engagement, so Michael was running the meeting. And he was getting all worked up like I was having, it was birthday day for both Alex and Karen's mom. They both share the same birthday. So I was at...
Be careful. Putin's watching and listening right now. Just be careful. He's the acting mayor, Thom.
I know.
He's got leverage over you, pal. Just be careful what you say. Might get shit canned.
Can't do that. Can't recall a city councilor. There is no process. There is no mechanism.
He'll let all the air out of your tires. Just be careful what you're saying. That's all I'm saying.
He could do that.
What happened last night?
Let's see what we got. Let's see. I brought my packet in from the car.
Because you're a paper guy.
Yeah. So,
see that,
well,
Rainley?
sometimes it's not fun being a city councilor, because you have to make hard decisions. One hard line that I took last night, and the way I feel personally about organizations, it's easy for me to separate that, my work as counselor with how I may feel personally about an organization. So, as you recall, there was a lot of that last night.
Okay.
So the first thing was, you may recall last week, Washington County Mental Health came in. They said, hey, because of COVID, and we have a policy. If you want to be on the ballot to be considered for taxpayer funds, we have a policy that you have to follow. And you have to either submit a petition or you've got to let us know. And we had two organizations. One was Washington County Mental Health, $10,000 request to be on the ballot. And one was People's Health and Wellness Clinic, $3,000 request. I got off easy on People's Health and Wellness Clinic because we are big supporters of the clinic. So Karen and I are actually part of a group that owns their building. We help them purchase and renovate their building with the idea that in 9 years, because we're about 8 years, because we're 2 years into it this year, in 8 years, we'll actually donate the building to the People's Health and Wellness Clinic. So I was conflicted out on that one, so I got off easy. With Washington County Mental Health, I did vote in the affirmative. I voted to put them on the ballot for $10,000. And that decision bothered me because just before I voted in the affirmative, I looked at Carol Dawes and said, Carol, you're the keeper of the funds, you're city clerk. Carol is certainly, politics don't play into any of her decisions. It's always about what's right. Yep. And so I said, Carol, can you give me a recommendation? What do you think we should do with this $10,000? And she said I wouldn't approve it. And I voted for it anyway because I'm a big little bitch.
Big little bitch.
Big little bitch.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I didn't. It wasn't the right thing because you've got to be able to separate yourself from the organization. It's not about the work you do. It's about, the rules and the rules that everyone has to play by. And if these two organizations, and I'm not going to sit here and argue the benefit to our city and central Vermont, it's enormous. But sometimes we miss deadlines, and when you miss deadlines, unless you have a really good excuse, and COVID is worn out on me. Okay, it's not unless you actually had COVID.
Right.
But COVID and I had a recommendation from someone I respected, and I was a wimp, and I voted for Washington County Mental Health, and like I said, I couldn't participate in the People's Health and Wellness Clinic, so that vote came up on the consent agenda to ratify the vote, and I voted no. I did not want to ratify it. Yeah, and it did pass anyway. I was in the minority. But that was and then from there, we segued into the Rainbow Bridge Center. And there were some folks from the Rainbow Bridge Center who came in and offered a very compelling argument. They wanted to be on the ballot for $25,000. I think, I'm all about return on investment and leveraging. I think I am very familiar with the center and the work that they do because I have been helping Greg straighten out their books and try to come up with some fundraising and try to put them in front of the right people, like people at National Life and
people at the Air It Out podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. The right people. So, but I couldn't. But I told them up front, I'm not going to vote to put you on the ballot. I won't. I could consider a $12,500 ARPA appropriation because I appreciate the work you do in the community, but that would be conditioned on you raising $12,500. In other words, it's not free. We're going to double our money, just like when Councilor Wozniak, proposed the warming center, and he's like, "Hey, look, we put up $6,000, and we have the Interfaith Council who has pledged to also put up $6,000. So we're doubling our money." Yeah. And so, and again, it's not about return on investment, but it's about, wait a minute. If you're willing, our job's actually kind of easy. We take one vote, $12,500 appropriation. You're the ones who have to go out there and raise the other $12,500. You're the ones who have to go out there and raise the other $6,000. So, in instances like that, for me, it's just about support. We'll support the organization. So hopefully we can help the Rainbow Bridge Center. I think we can. And then that, of course, segued into the $250,000 ARPA appropriation for Downstreet to complete the apartments at the former Ward 5 school, 9 units. And
9 units.
9 units. $3.5 million cost. Great project. I mean, it's not new to me.
Can we get
I was working with Eileen
Can we get any more than 9 out of that?
5 years ago, I was working with Eileen Pelletier on this. So I am thrilled. So understand, Karen and I are huge supporters of Downstreet. I will guarantee you that last year we donated more to Downstreet than the entire city council combined. I'll guarantee you that. And we appreciate them, and we support them personally. But this is a different job. This is my role as city councilor.
Right.
So the issues that I had with it, it was first presented as, as they were doing, reading the write-up on it, they said, the city of Barre, when we polled our citizens about the ARPA funds, housing, the development of housing was right at the top of the list. That doesn't surprise me, I wasn't surprised at all. It would be at the top of my list.
Right.
And then the statement was made that, and this project specifically was the #1 vote getter. And I thought for a minute, because I read my council packet. We talked about the paper. I'll go to bed with a stack of paper and really try to make sure I understand what's happening in the city, what's happening in the council chambers. So that statement took me back a little bit, because I looked at the manager and I said, well, wasn't there only one housing project presented? And he's like, yes. I said, so you're actually touting the fact that this was a #1 vote. It's like, I won. It was a race I raced against myself and I won. And that, so we got past that. I love Nicholas. I love his energy. I love what he's doing. He's bringing a fresh perspective, but that was a little strange. And then it was presented as a great investment for the city. Okay, so I started looking at that, and I said, well, so what's it going to, and the problem that I'm having with this appropriation, JD, I've never made a $250,000 decision with less information than was presented to the city council. Never. And, I mean, literally, it was just, we like the project, we need housing, give them the money. So I started asking the questions. Well, you're presenting it as a great investment for the city. The city invests $250,000. What is the return? What is the return as far as grand list, property taxes? How much money do we get back? And now it's not always about the money that you get back, but when it's presented to me as an investment, I'm going to ask you questions about the investment. I'm not the one who presented it that way. So $14,000, that's what it's returning in taxes. A tick above 12.5 would be 5%. So a tick above 5%. It's growing the grand list because even though it's a $3.5 million project, public housing projects don't follow the same assessment formula. So it's going to generate, give or take, 400. But I didn't even have the math. I had to sort of do the math in my head. I didn't have it in front of me. No one gave it to me. So I had to sort of do it in my head and then present it to the clerk and the manager and say, well, does this seem right? And they're like, yeah, seems right. So $14,000 translates into about $400,000 increase in the grand list. So I didn't see that. So I just looked at them and I said, well, how many developers do you think, if we said to a bunch of developers or said to the whole world, we'll give you $250,000 if you grow our grand list by $800,000. In other words, we're going to double our return on investment. Then, I guarantee you there'd be people standing in line. Mm-hmm. So, I was a little tough on him last night, JD, but if you're going to present something, and if you want to present it as Thom, it's just, I'm not a total hard ass. I support the Rainbow Bridge Center. I certainly support the Warming Center. But if you're going to present something to me as an investment, you better be prepared for the questions. If you want to present it as, hey, we just think it's a nice thing to do, you may have my vote anyway. Teddy didn't dare, to his credit. He didn't dare push back on any of my questions about the math. He just said, I love this project. And I'll absolutely guarantee you, the 9 singles or couples or families who are going to be the occupants of those apartments, they're going to be incredibly grateful. And we have an obligation to take care of all of our citizens.
Comments coming in.
You suck! We hate you!
Comments coming in. Downstreet should withdraw the request, as it will likely cause hard feelings within our community. I'm disappointed. I was hoping each unit would cost $400,000, not just a measly $300,000 for each unit. And I went to elementary school in that building many moons ago, and it needed massive repairs then.
Me too.
Thom, when is the warehouse building on Morrison Road being turned into a dispensary?
Never. Oh, they're referring to, well, this is about personal stuff. We're not talking about city stuff, just to be clear. The development company, we purchased the bond, which is now the O'Reilly warehouse.
Yeah.
O'Reilly actually occupies it. And so in terms of when are we turning that building, with the mezzanine, is about 80,000 square feet. I love the building. I mean, there's a lot of uses. I mean, I've never even heard. So I don't think they quite meant dispensary. I think they meant dispensary is where you sell.
Right.
I don't think
know where you're gonna
what would you call that? Pot world? I mean, 80,000 square feet. So I think they probably meant to say, when are you going to start growing pot in there? Never. I mean,
there isn't going to be a potworld.com?
No, well, not on my watch. And we have, and we have a tenant who is engaged in the business. It's not my company. I don't own it. We're their landlords, and they're engaged in the business of growing Forbin's Finest, and just, great kids. We've really enjoyed working with them, but, directly involved. I mean, I never say never, but it's not, you got to stick with what you know, JD.
You got to stick with mulch.
I haven't smoked pot since Karen was, actually, I lied. My kids, when I turned 60, on my 60th birthday, my kids gave me a joint. They were partaking with their friends, and they're like, "Come on, Dad, get high with us." And so and then I went right to bed. It's like, I'm serious. That's what it does. And I remember back, I'm like, it's always done this to me. It's like, I get high and I don't get the munchies. I don't get. I go sleep.
Thom.
But the time before that was, I remember the time Karen was pregnant with Alex. So, again, you got to do what you know. I know nothing about the marijuana industry.
Thom.
Yeah.
Did you inhale?
Of course. Well, what's the point? No, President Clinton. I didn't. And about that woman, yeah.
That woman.
Yeah.
That woman.
No, so.
Oh, God.
Okay, so we were talking about more important things. Okay. We were talking about, first of all, Downstreet is a wonderful organization. Karen and I wholeheartedly support them. We support their mission. And again, things got a little tough in terms of the questioning, because at one point I was talking about, okay, they need $250,000. I get it. They got a little funding gap there. Mm-hmm. So I started to throw out, well, what if we did a loan? We also talked about doing a community loan fund, so that if someone was moving into our city and they needed down payment assistance, or they want to weatherize their home, it would be nice to have a pot of money where the city could make loans to people who want to improve their homes. And obviously, if you make $10,000 worth of improvements to a home, it translates into a $10,000 dollar for dollar increase in the grand list. So I started talking about, well, we talked about this and it sort of went by the wayside. Why couldn't we loan the money to Downstreet? 20-year repayment, 25-year repayment. And someone started to quickly answer, oh, well, the project couldn't support that. And that was like, no, don't go there. Because you know what? I'll show you how the project can support. So that was sort of a tough moment, and I've got to apologize to someone for that, because it was just like, no, first of all, you haven't even bid this project yet. You don't technically know what your construction costs are. So, we don't know. Downstreet is a $5 million organization. So if you really want to go there, and all I'm trying to do, JD, is leverage that $250,000 even further.
Sure.
The only thing better than investing a pot of money once is to invest that same
Over and
pot of
over.
money 15 times. And that's this is not leverage. This is not a stellar investment. The city could take this $250,000. We could go buy treasury bonds, and we'd get a higher return. So, present it. If you want to present it as, hey, it's the right thing to do, like Councilor Wozniak did, I'm all open to that. And we do need more housing. We need more housing of all types. But like I said, that's the conversation I want to have. Is there an opportunity? Make half of it a loan. Make all of it a loan. Is there an opportunity to leverage these funds even further so that young, old, whoever homeowners in our city could get a crack at some of this $250,000 as well? And what if we could take this $250,000 and over the next 10 years lend it 10 times? That's $2.5 million.
Where's this conversation going to go next?
Probably with everybody saying I'm a big old meanie.
In
That's where it'll start.
In addition to that,
We'll have the conversation next week. Interestingly, and I was just messing with them. So at one point during the meeting, I made the motion to approve the $250,000 appropriation. I could see where it was going. I could see Councilor Booton, Councilor Deering were not there. I certainly wasn't there.
Right.
And I'm not going to guess at the rest of them, but the best it was going to get was a tie. A tie does not pass. So essentially that would have killed it right there. So I made that motion, but I was just messing with them. I ended up withdrawing the motion. So
Twice.
because I could see it procedurally.
Maybe 3 times.
Yeah. So, yeah. So you know what? If I really didn't want it to happen out of respect for Jake, I said, okay, this is a big decision, $250,000. The full board should be present. We don't have to make this decision tonight. So I offered to table it.
Yeah.
The discussion was that, but like I said, not before I made the motion to approve it, which I knew would have failed, and that would have killed it off. But I was just messing with them.
Yeah. No.
The
My God,
expression
there's
on
so-
Teddy's face when I did that was priceless.
There's so
And
many
we're friends. I mean, I was just messing with them.
I know that. There's so many comments coming in. Your thoughts
geez.
on your thoughts on the proposed city budget, and when are the potholes on North Main Street going to get filled in?
Boy, I hope soon on the pot. I always hated it this time of year because right now, in fairness to our city staff, it is next to impossible when you get water in the pothole. You'll see them out there with a leaf blower. If there's moisture in the pothole, it's almost for show. I mean, they're doing their best.
I know.
But even they know that if the pothole is
It expands.
wet
Yeah.
and you put that hot mix in there and you tamp it down,
Yeah.
within a week, a
Yeah.
car's going to drive over it and pick it right up again.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, I always hated this time of year because I knew that we were going to vote in March, and this is pothole season.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the roads are going to look like shit, and we're gonna piss off the voter. City budget, I had some questions. I voted present. I didn't vote to approve it because I felt as a city councilor, I felt we deserved a little more time with it. Others didn't agree. I'm a numbers guy, JD. Probably, I know I process numbers more quickly than anyone on the council. Not being a big ass and patting myself on the back, but it's what I do. So I needed some more time. There were some things, especially on the revenue side, I thought it was a little soft, and I had what I thought were reasonable questions and said, just like there was a gentleman who came in, wanted to talk about bus service. Jesse Rosaldo, I hope I'm not butchering his name, but he wanted to talk about bus service. And I said, Jesse, why don't we do this on a Saturday? Why don't we have something at the Milne Room or, because I'd like to have folks from the bus company come in, folks who use the bus service. And it's
have like
hard
a
sometimes,
forum.
JD, when you get in, it's 7 o'clock at night. I went to work at 6. Okay, so I'm already on my 13th hour when we start the meeting. And this is the city's budget. So I just said, hey, is there any way we could meet on a Saturday morning and I can ask all my questions and we can go through this thing one more time? And everybody's like, nah, I don't want to. So I'm like, okay, then you know what? I'm not prepared to vote yes on this. So I voted present. And as far as, look, I'm not going to tell people, I think people who say, oh, vote against the school budget, it's too low. I don't tell people how to vote on budgets. I mean, obviously, when I was mayor, I was like, please support the budget. How they vote is their own business. So,
Can you help us get someone in here,
Yeah.
in this chair, who can speak more details on the potholes? Because we have a lot of people suggesting how they get filled in, sand and no sand and all this stuff.
we tried. No, I'm gonna get.
Would you
I'm gonna get Bill Ahern,
That's great.
and then I'm gonna go up the food chain. I'm gonna see if I can get someone from VTrans.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
in here. Bill Ahern would be, but Bill
Do a
is.
show on potholes. My God, that's fantastic.
Well,
We have some.
You know what?
connections with
They
V-Trans.
don't. They don't. You can't.
Yeah.
Like in the winter, to try to fix them in the winter, a long-lasting fix, I've very rarely seen it be successful. It's really hard.
Question here. Do you have an opinion that you wouldn't mind sharing about people sitting on council and the school board in the same district?
What's wrong with that? I mean, I saw the letter from our very new state representative who said, oh, people shouldn't be. Well, if that's the case, I think we're going to have to do a purging at the city level, because last time I checked, there are people who are sitting on multiple committees. So, again, I'm not to sit there. Well, JD, we're all individuals. There are people that I've looked at times, and I shake my head and marvel, and I'm like, how the hell can they do all the shit they do and make it all work? And they're really good at it. Now, they're talking specifically about Michael Booten, so let's get right to it, okay? Because I'm not afraid to get right to it.
This is why
So let
he
me tell
needs
you
to be
something.
governor, because he just says it how it is.
Well, First
Let
of
him do
all, let me start by saying I have incredible admiration and affection for Michael. He is just a good man in terms of his conscience and how he thinks. I've said this a million times before. I love it when Michael will get into it with somebody at the council, and then he goes on the apology tour the next day.
I've heard the apology tour.
Oh my God,
I've had,
Yeah,
I've
we
had
laugh
tickets.
about that.
hysterical.
I've had
Yeah.
tickets
He
to the
has
apology
he
tour.
has a good heart. Now, Michael is single. Michael is a bachelor. Michael doesn't have children. Now, for those of you who
Oh, I know he
Don't
doesn't
have children.
I know he doesn't have children.
Okay, but
because
for
he
those
said
of you
he
who
said to
don't-
me before,
Now
well,
listen.
just bring Lily in and let her run around for 2 hours.
It's like, no, doesn't work like that.
No.
So I'm sure raising a family, when Karen and I, mostly Karen, we're raising Alex and Miranda, let me tell you, if you're going to be a parent and you're going to do it well, it takes a lot of time. And you got to be there for your kids, and you got to go to their events. And so I would be willing to bet you that if you are a bachelor versus a person who has a spouse and children, you have a lot more time in your life, available time. I trust Michael Booten. I don't have any qualms about Michael Booten serving on the school board and on the city council. There are no conflicts of interest, JD. I cannot think of a time in my, in my decades of service. Remember, I chaired the school board.
Yep.
I chaired the school board when we built the new school. There was certainly the potential for conflict there, but there never was any. We got our permit. So when people talk about conflicts of interest, let me tell you why people should throw out conflicts of interest. Because they got nothing left. They got nothing, no facts to present. So they'll throw out some bullshit conflict. Well, conflict of interest. There are no I struggle to think what the conflict would be between the school board
I think
and the city council.
Based on the comment we're getting here, is that enough time and attention can be paid to two very high needs situations right now.
Listen, I trust Michael's judgment. And if Michael, let me tell you something, if Michael makes that commitment, if he is elected to the school board,
Yeah, he'll be even
and
busier.
he is on the city council, let me tell you something, Michael will make that commitment. And he'll do a hell of a lot better job than some folks who serve on one or another of those bodies. We won't get into names. That would be kind of mean. But I'm not worried about him being prepared for either.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's his choice. And simply to write a letter to the Times-Argus because you're afraid Michael Booten might get elected, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't expect it from my representative.
Josh just wrote, he's been going to and participating on every school board meeting all year and most committee meetings as well. Better attendance than some current board members. He's already doing it.
Yep.
And then DJ Hardacre just wrote, if people are making good decisions and are city-minded, not personal-minded, it makes sense to have people be on multiple committees, especially when there's a lack of people willing to be open-minded and helpful.
Well, I can tell you, those two positions would probably take a heck of a lot less time than being mayor and doing it well. Because I know when I served to get the big dig done, to get city place done, I know how many hours this time of year with the legislature in session, I know how many hours I had to put into that job.
Yeah.
And, and it's a lot if you want to do it well. So, again, I trust Michael, and I'm just disappointed that a letter was written with zero substance.
Yeah.
It had no substance because we're all different. It was just about, hey, I'm a Democrat and I don't want a Republican to get elected.
Yeah, right.
Guess what? You lost me at hello.
Right.
So,
Tonight,
go ahead, get me all
we're gonna do
riled
it.
up, you two. You suck.
Tonight, Sarah Pregent and I will be doing a special episode of Barry Beat, and we will be interviewing Michael, giving him his chance to speak
Tonight.
as
8 o'clock?
as a candidate. Yes,
Nice.
Right here.
So right here, Barry
In this
Beat,
studio.
In this studio,
On the Barry Beat podcast. I forgot all about this. I'm so glad you remembered.
myself and Sarah Pregent will be
Cool.
here to do that
Great.
interview
I
with
like
him.
Sarah.
Yes, I do too. She's a very
She's
very smart girl.
pragmatic. There's been some. We've had it go on at the county. It's the politics of it, JD. I never experienced that. During my years of service, like I have on the city council now, it's disappointing. Even at the school board, and no one's immune from bad behavior. We can all behave badly sometimes.
We got people commenting, I didn't write the letter, Tom. Don't yell at me. I didn't write it.
right.
No,
And Josh just wrote, with the letter, the irony is the other rep holds 2 elected seats. Can't make this crap up.
Well, but it's not only, but the way that letter was written, we'd literally, there are people that quickly came to mind. I'm like, okay, I guess we got to purge these people off the, they got to make a choice. Do they want to be on the DRB, on the Planning Commission, or on the TAC because they got to go?
Yeah.
But again, you trust people. So what if nobody wanted to volunteer in the city? What if you had a group of 10 solid citizens?
Willing
and
to
nobody
put
else
a
in the
little bit
world
on their
wanted to volunteer?
plates. Yeah.
And so these 10 people were on all the city committees. But they did a good job. They were prepared. No complaints about their work.
Yeah.
Just, again, to make that blanket statement was just, I guess it just showed how new you are.
You're going to be back with us next Wednesday? Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. We know you got to fly. We have to fly.
We all fly.
Thank you for coming in here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So
getting me
much.
all riled up.
Look at we've elevated the blood pressure. Raylene, anything else that we're forgetting?
No. Well, yes. So it is Ladies' Day.
Yes,
At
over at
Vermont
Vermont
Quick
Quick Lube.
So you go over
That's for your car.
all
by
your
the way.
yes,
Yes.
just for your car. They only service cars and trucks, things like that. Don't ask them for a service.
Wow.
But
Yeah. They are great.
free car wash and a flower
And a
for the
flower.
ladies today as a thank you for everything you do and for your patronage. And they do that every single Wednesday.
And
is
for
Ladies'
putting
Days.
up with your significant other if he's like Tom.
Right, and you get to just stay in the car and
Right.
Relax for
Take
a
a
minute.
nap.
Yeah.
Then we also have it's $5 burger night, so $5
Over at the Cornerstone.
at the Cornerstone. You get
Yeah.
a burger, basket of fries. That is dine-in only and starts at 4:00 and it goes until close.
Yes.
And then Today is Wellness Wednesday.
Oh, that's right. Over at
So
23 Summer Street.
right out back at 23 Summer Street, and all
Washington
of that's on the page.
Yeah.
So you can see what's offered. You can see what you need to have appointments for. Where you can and can't eat at what time, and
Washington County Mental Health
all those
does
sorts
this.
of things.
And they do a great job.
And it's
Absolutely.
free. And it's free
Absolutely
to the public.
free.
So this is week 3 of 6 for Wellness Wednesdays.
Yes.
So get over there.
Frankly, I think Thom needs to go over there and just sip some tea and just relax.
Get a
for
little ear seat.
Just get a massage.
We got tax returns to do. Sorry.
Thom, final question.
It's all good.
Final question.
Yeah.
One of our new sponsors is Optical Expressions. What do you think of the glasses, bud? Come on, break it down. Be
Your
honest.
glasses?
Just be honest.
Well, you got the Harry Potter thing going.
Holy shit.
Well, I didn't say I didn't like them. You asked me what I thought of them, and that's
Harry
the first
Potter
thing that popped
thing
into.
going.
Well, that's the first thing that popped into my head. Look into the camera.
Wow.
Look, am I wrong?
Is that Tom's car right there?
Well, his
call
thoughts.
Dee.
At least he
I'm gonna-
said something nice. Hey,
gonna
Harry
call Dee.
Potter's not that
Well,
bad
no,
compared to
you
what
got-
I was thinking the other day when I first saw you.
What was that?
You know.
What did you
What was
say?
that?
Poindexter?
Oh my God. We are so excited. Mark Liepert, we're going to get him in here, but they're open, 8 to 6
Yeah.
Yes.
in the
they are.
Berlin Mall.
You
Yes,
know,
they are.
I love your shows. I like the people you have on. Even, I love the businesses because, people who own their own business, they're incredibly proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell that to our staff accountants when, we're sending them out on an assignment. And I'm like, no, I want you to go visit the business first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that you know more about them. And, oh, by the way, it's like someone showing off their kid.
Yeah.
Someone who has grown a business, they're proud of it. And they love the opportunity to talk about it and show
Sure.
their business off. So
Sure.
very cool.
Yeah.
Nice job.
And then we got Michael Deering, who's just now tuning in. I mean, where has he been for the last
Probably out
hour
saving the
and a half?
world.
Yeah.
God,
Michael's
he's missed
everywhere.
everything. He missed everything.
He can watch it again. He didn't miss a damn thing. You're all good, Michael. Whatever you were doing, I'm sure it was important.
Thanks for coming in, Tom. We love
Thank you for
pal.
having me.